So before we dive into the meat of today and the content that you're all here for, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that the Center for Student Involvement in Careers and UBC Vancouver Point Grey campus are situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Hunkaminam speaking Musqueam people. And I'd also like to acknowledge that you are all joining us from various places today, and I want to honor and respect the original caretakers of those lands. And I'll pass it over to Christine to do land acknowledgement for UBCO.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine, and I'm joining you today from the unceded ancestral territory of the Silks Okanagan peoples here in Kelowna, British Columbia. As we talk today about research opportunities and learning, I would challenge all of you to also spend some time researching and learning about the lands on which you live. I've been blessed to be a visitor in this place for about 9 years now, and I've learned a lot and am always still learning. So thank you all very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Christine. I also just want to say that while we're in this event space together, just reminding everyone that all members of UBC community are expected to uphold a respectful environment in which respect, civility, diversity, opportunity, and inclusion are valued. Although we may be interacting off campus at the moment in a virtual setting, the expectations for fostering a safe and respectful environment for all remains the same for all students, staff, and faculty, and that especially includes Christine and I. So Launch a Career in Canada is hosted by the Center for Student Involvement, Careers and Alumni UBC, and of course is UBC's annual networking experience open only to UBC international students dedicated to supporting their career development, or your career development. This week, you will of course have the opportunity to hear from alumni, connect and network with industry professionals in a panel and networking setting, discover how to navigate work and research opportunities at UBC, which of course we'll talk more about today as well, develop job search skills, and learn how alumni made a successful transition from UBC to the Canadian workplace. And of course, today we are talking about finding research opportunities, and we would love it if you could just let us know that you're here. You can use the tiny URL. I believe Irene will put the link in the chat as well. And you can access the survey through the QR code as well. By filling out the attendance survey, you will get a recording of the webinar and a link to our post-event survey for a chance to win a $50 Uber Eats gift card. And so all the information to do that will be in the chat there. I'm just going to give it a few moments to let people do that, and then we will continue on. Okay, so in terms of what we'll cover today, I want to acknowledge this is going to be a little bit of an information heavy session at first because there's a lot of different research opportunities, which is great, but that means we're going to be sharing quite a bit of detail about these different programs. So what we'll cover in our chat together today is first of all looking at why consider research. Obviously, you probably have some interest already if you're here, but we'll dive into a little bit more about what's available to you and what you might learn. And then we'll go over the various research programs available at our two campuses. And that includes comparing the programs and what's different and similar about them. We'll talk about the Worklearn International Undergraduate Research Awards, the NCIRK Undergraduate Research Awards. We will talk about Worklearn and Work Study respectively. And then finally, the Multidisciplinary Undergraduate Research Conference, or also affectionately known as MIRC. We'll wrap up with a little bit about how to contact faculty and staff about research opportunities, including tips to be thinking about. And of course, most importantly, we'll have time for questions at the end of this as well. So a couple of things that I wanted to start with before we dive into all the nitty-gritty about the various programs that are available at our two campuses is starting with some student voices who have actually done these research opportunities, because Christine and I can talk all we want about these programs, but we want to start with people who've gone through the programs and have some experience in them. So the first anecdote I'll read is just some of the most relevant takeaways from this Undergraduate Research Award, were things that I learned about myself rather than the specific information and tasks I've been trained on. One of the most valuable things I learned was the type of work environment that I thrive in. Working in a lab that prioritizes work-life balance has been a really healthy experience for me because this is something that I've struggled with a lot in my university career. So maybe not something you would initially expect about a research opportunity to be talking about work-life balance, but I really like this quote and this story because it highlights that there's a lot of things that you gain from research opportunities that aren't just about the research skills, but also learning about what types of work environments you might potentially be looking for or thrive in. And then the other anecdote I wanted to share was from another student who said that I never felt that my questions or concerns were foolish or signs of academic immaturity. In fact, I developed a genuine camaraderie with all the members of the lab and felt at ease communicating and learning from them. I also refined my oral presentation skills through periodic lab meetings, which culminated in a final presentation in my final week. So I like this one because it really highlights being a part of something and being a member of a team, as opposed to sometimes we think about roles on and gaining work experience is like someone's going to give me tasks and I'll just sort of be assisting them. Obviously, that is a part of some opportunities, but I like that this really demonstrates a student who's been able to become a valuable part of the team, including presenting at lab meetings as well. And with that, I will pass it over to Christine to talk a little bit about some of these programs that we offer.
Thank you, Nick. So yeah, I mean, I know you can all read the chart, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through each individual line item, but I will say just to kind of highlight, so, you know, at UBC, we do love a good, you know, use of letters instead of words. And so I'll just highlight some of these for you. So the NCIRK USRA would be that's going to test me. On the next slide, we'll talk exactly about NCIRK, but Undergraduate Student Research Award. So that's for more the life sciences, physical sciences folks. The Worklearn IURA, or just if you're from the Okanagan campus, the IURA, the International Undergraduate Research Awards, those are specific for international students. And so, you know, they're not available for all students, as it says in the title. They are for undergraduate students. So if you are at the undergraduate level and you're interested in doing research, then these are the ones you want to kind of focus some time considering, as well as the NCIRK Undergraduate Awards. And then we also both offer a Worklearn program, which you'll find on the Vancouver campus. If you're in the Okanagan, we call it something different because we just love to be different here. So we call it work study, but generally it's the same thing, which is we fund positions for students to do research work on campus. And so, you know, again, available to all students. So that's definitely a more kind of robust piece. So if you are a graduate student and you're looking for more kind of research experiences or kind of part-time work outside of your own research, then you might want to look to the Worklearn and work study options. Note that it's no longer available to the PhD students, just as a little aside, but for those of you in the master's program, it is good to go. So it ranges from, you know, research related, non-research related, full-time, part-time, all kinds of options. So, you know, if you're interested, it's definitely something you need to look into. So hopefully you jotted down the words and or letters that I was noting. And then when we move to the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about each one of these. So the NCIRK Undergraduate Research Award is really focused on the natural and engineering sciences. And thank you, Leah, in the chat. We are going to cover this. So you are thinking ahead, but I promise you, just hold tight. We will get to how to connect. It's about, you know, students who may want to consider graduate studies in the future. These kinds of awards can really help you dip your toes into that research water to feel out what might be a good fit for you. Perhaps there's a certain lab on campus you want to work with, or you have multiple options because you have multiple interests. This is just a great chance to get some experiences. It's going to do great work to complement what you're actually studying in the classroom, which sometimes can feel a little disjointed from how you might use it in the real world. And this kind of research piece will definitely give you some kind of headway into those experiences. And I mean, you know, when you're an international student coming, sometimes it's hard to find those work experience pieces where you get paid. These offer financial supports to you, so you can actually make some money while you're doing these valuable experiences. And that's going to work the same for the Worklearn work study program as well. They're funded through a different kind of body than NCIRK or the other IURAs, but in general, it's all about getting more of that experience for sure. Sorry, I you know, was a little slow on the uptake there, Nick. Thank you for moving it. So NCIRK, what does it stand for? Thank you for having this outlined on the slide. The Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada. So these awards are offered through government funded programs. You know, eligible professors will work to kind of create these opportunities with you and then apply for this type of funding. Usually it's about 16 weeks of full-time work. So a lot of these you will find happen over the summer. It not always exclusively over the summer, but again, you know, these kinds of opportunities tend to want you to be in a full-time mode. So kind of balancing coursework can sometimes be difficult. These grant programs are offered directly through the faculties, schools, coordinators. Each faculty will have their own procedures for how these things are done. So it's really important that you apply directly through the faculty or school contact. And so we'll be providing some links to those in the chat, but in the meantime, just knowing that this specific program has a really high impact. When we've asked our students how they feel about, you know, these opportunities through NCIRK, they've had some really great feedback around skill development, making those connections between the academic work that they're doing and the professional world where they may be using it. Really improving on those problem-solving skills, analytical skills. So as you're reading through job descriptions and you're wondering, how am I ever going to get these skills? You know, sometimes these research opportunities are going to allow that for you. And it's also a great way to develop them. So you may feel like, okay, I have a pretty good handle on how to do some of these things, but enhancing them through these research opportunities is going to make you that much more prepared when it does come time to apply for the job. And it's also a great way to just pick up those other skills like Nick was speaking about, communication, all of those kinds of things. And so, yeah, this is a great program to be involved with. I was going to say, did you want to take this one, Nick, or do you want me to talk about this one?
I will, yes, sorry. I got my cursor lost across my two screens for a second. That was my moment of panic. So thanks so much, Christine. So wanted to share about the Worklearn International Undergraduate Research Awards. I think probably takes the cake for the biggest mouthful in terms of a program, but really great opportunity for international undergraduate students to gain some research experience. So as I said, these are jobs specifically designed for international undergraduate students who are interested in research. And they subsidize professors, similar to NCIRK. They subsidize professors to hire students to work on their research projects. The minimum normal duration for the award, again, is 16 consecutive weeks of full-time work, which is typically 35 hours a week plus 1 hour unpaid lunch break. The research awards will generally run May 1st to August 31st, and the latest a student can start working at their award is generally May 13th. I've included some deadlines there just to know that those things are coming up rather quickly. And I also wanted to note that because the summer term is rapidly approaching, a lot of these positions are currently posted on Careers Online as well. So with a May 1st start date, that means that if you're wanting to do something for this summer, there's at this point not time to submit a proposal with a professor for this summer, but great to know that that's available as an option for a future cycle. but knowing that these jobs will be available and posted online until March 20th. In terms of how to apply, you will have to submit a research proposal with a faculty member if you're wanting to submit for a new project. Or, as I said before, you can apply on Careers Online as well and see those jobs posted. And in a little bit, when we talk about Worklearn and Work Study, we'll talk about how to actually find those jobs on Careers Online as well. And again, just speaking to program impact, that these are jobs and opportunities where you're able to gain a lot of skills and be integrated with a team. It's really interesting to see the growth in skills. So for instance, with research skills at the beginning of a WRLA award, students will often report around 42% in terms of their self-reporting for excellent or very good for their research skills. And that more than doubles by the end. So obviously research skills are a huge part of what students are gaining. But again, when we look at the ability to communicate with others, working in complex environments, these are also transferable skills that have applications outside of research as well. So I especially want to speak to folks who are maybe thinking about, like, I'm not sure if research is for me. Knowing that if you take a research opportunity, that's not locking you into a career in a lab setting or in a particular research field, but is an opportunity to actually gain a really broad set of skills while also gaining the specific research skills for that opportunity. I'll throw it back to Christine for this next one.
Perfect. So at UBC Okanagan, our deadlines are a little bit different. So for those of you interested in this year, the deadline has actually passed, but that's okay if you're not, there's lots of time if you're still kind of getting through your programs. But what I did want to say around the Okanagan is that because we are a small, relatively new campus, I mean, we are just really a baby. And if you look at the whole kind of university kind of landscape in Canada, but what's really exciting for our students is we've noticed a real increase in research funding over the last few years. So you can note that, for the Okanagan students, there is going to be kind of lots of opportunities continuing to be available on our campus. It really is about focusing that research opportunity for international students to be part of the really cool and innovative research that's going on. This just gives you a little idea of kind of how much you're looking at for salary wise. So about $10,500 per student for that summer employment. But it's just really exciting, and I'm not going to go over all the benefits again. It's all the same no matter what campus you're on. But if you are interested in research, it's really important to get involved, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that in a bit. But visit your faculty websites, connect to any faculty member who might be doing interesting research, and really kind of reach out and start doing that groundwork today. So but that just gives you a little bit of an idea of all the different kinds of funding and exciting research opportunities that could be available.
Awesome. Okay, and with that, we'll talk a little bit more about Worklearn and Work Study. And so I know that this is a lot of information and a lot of very similar sounding titles, and I apologize for that, but really want to stress the important thing to know here is there's multiple different programs that it's possible to get research through. And the whole reason behind having multiple programs is to serve different audiences, but also to make sure that there's as many opportunities as possible. So I will also take this note to say that I know when we get to the question portion, probably there will be lots of questions about specific eligibility of whether or not you could work in a particular program. And with the links to all the program websites, that will be the best place to get that eligibility information. However, I want to talk a little bit about Worklearn, something very close to my heart. I was a Worklearn student once upon a time. And it's a great opportunity to, again, gain skills. Something that's a little bit different about Worklearn is Worklearn includes research-based jobs, but also includes non-research-based jobs. So Again, speaking to a broader audience, if you're thinking about jobs outside of research, Worklearn is a potential option for you as well, but some Worklearn jobs are research-based. So the Worklearn program supports and subsidizes meaningful work experience on campus that offers current UBC students the opportunity to develop your professional skills and learn in a work environment. There are over 700 plus positions on the Vancouver campus. Examples include Aboriginal Admissions Research Assistant, Project Assistant to the Division of Inner City Medicine, an Oral Biology Project Assistant. The list goes on and on. The point is there's hundreds of jobs available. There are over 100 positions plus at the Okanagan campus. And some examples include Cancer Biomarkers Screening Research Assistant, IC and EV Powertrain Materials Research Assistant, which sounds like a great title, and Youth Mental Health Research Assistant. These are a random sample of some titles just to show you the breadth. And that's true for each one of these programs that, again, they're programs that support professors who are already doing research on campus. And then they're able to hire students for their particular projects. So that's why each program is a little different. And of course, each research position is a little bit different as well. Before I continue on, Christine, was there anything that you wanted to say about work study specifically?
Not really. I think I mean, the positions are on there. I think sometimes, and I'm noticing in the chat here too, where it says, you know, you can search and there's only 3 career online related research projects. Don't always filter. Sometimes if they're not filled out correctly, you can filter yourself down and out. So, you know, keep those filters open sometimes and just look through them. As you read the descriptions, you might find there's more. And that would work the same on the Okanagan campus as well. We, again, have the same system, but for some reason call it something different. But I do find sometimes, you know, the filtering can narrow it a little bit. So, you know, if you're not finding a lot of opportunities, you know, get rid of the filter and see what you can find on your own.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, and on using the filters, if you're looking for Worklearn positions on the UBC Vancouver campus, you can go to search, select more filters, and then check research-based. That will also pull up all research-based jobs as well, which can be overwhelming at times. And so that's sometimes where it's helpful to have an idea of, you know, a faculty or department that you might be interested in. The point being that there's multiple ways to search these databases and find jobs. But the great thing is all of these positions for all of these programs that we've talked about, they will be posted on Careers Online, on that central database, so that things are a little bit easier to find for you. I also just want to note that all summer positions for Worklearn on the Vancouver campus are currently open from March 7th until March 20th. And just really want to encourage you that if you see a job you're interested in, to not wait to apply. Definitely get your resume and cover letter in sooner rather than later, because those jobs, a lot of those jobs will close on the 20th. You will still see some Worklearn and work study jobs available past the posting dates, because of course, sometimes people need to spend a little bit longer on recruitment. But the point behind posting all of these at the same time is so that everybody can see what's available. So even if you're thinking like, maybe not this summer, you're still able to go on Careers Online and see a list of what's available. And I would really encourage you to have a look at the range of opportunities available. Okay. Another piece that I wanted to talk about is something that's coming up rather soon, but is still available to register for and attend. And that is the Multidisciplinary Undergraduate Research Conference, again, just known as MCIRK. This will be happening March 19th and 20th. This year is a hybrid event. So there will be a number of sessions that are taking place on campus at the Point Grey campus in person, and a number of things that will be happening online as well. And this is a conference for UBC undergraduate students to showcase their research in front of their fellow UBC students, family, and friends. Researchers may choose one of 2 formats to showcase their research, either a presentation or a poster. And again, I would really say if you're just kind of putting the feelers out there right now and trying to decide if this is something that you're interested in, if research is a path that you want to learn more about, attending MCIRK is a really great way to see what other people have done and what your peers have been working on and researching. I know that networking is a word that always elicits strong reactions to people, but this is a great opportunity to network and to get to know and ask people questions about either one day participating in MERC, but also getting to hear about how they found their opportunities. So obviously, if these students are doing research projects, they've worked with staff and faculty at UBC, they've done that reaching out to folks already. So they're a great resource to be able to be like, hey, how did you do this? Or how did you go about sending that first email to somebody to ask if they wanted to participate in a research project? Any UBC undergraduate student who is participating in or has completed their own UBC faculty supervised research project can apply to present at MERC. So there is again, a huge range of research projects that you will see at MERC. And all faculties and schools are welcome. We'll provide that link to the MERC page, and you can register to attend until March 17th. So basically until one day before, you can still register to attend, and I'll make sure that that registration link is in the comments as well in the chat once we're through all this info. Okay, I'll pass it back to Christine.
Thank you. Thank you. There's so many interesting questions in the chat. I've been trying to go through them, but also so we'll definitely get to them. But let's go back way to the beginning when we had a question about how to connect with faculty and staff about research opportunities. I think this takes a lot of bravery sometimes, but remember, your professors and instructors are people, just like you are people. And so, sometimes we have to kind of step up if this is something that involves our life and our career moving forward, and just take that first step. And I agree with Nick, that networking word can put people off, but let's just start thinking about it as sharing our story and, listening to other people's stories, because that's really all networking is about. So one thing that you might want to consider doing when you're thinking about research, knowing that professors and instructors are very busy folks, is think about what the opportunity you want to do is. It's not just about, hey, I want to do research and I'm just gonna, point onto the website and be like, and you're my research person. It's really important that you do some, research yourself on, who's doing work that you're interested in doing. All of the faculty members have websites, that are housed on their main faculty page that highlight the different types of research that they like to work on. So find out who's doing what's really exciting to you and think about how you might add value to their project. Instructors and professors are happy to talk about different opportunities, especially when you say, hey, look, there's this subsidy I can help, kind of bring in and really help you kind of pay for me to be with you. So, but it's not just about contacting anybody, really focus in. So when we think about, the tips, know what you're going to say and be prepared to talk to them. So we're not just going to go to 10 different professors knocking down the doors as we go. We're really going to try and direct to who we want to talk about. So, and one thing that I've learned in working in the world of academics, but not necessarily being an academic myself, is academics love to talk about their research. And so if you've done some background into how your interests and values around research connect with what they're doing, they're going to be super excited to talk to you. And so, think about some questions that you have around what they're doing, how, again, you can add value, because that really shows there's a general interest, right? And that's what they want to find, somebody who's interested in the type of work that they're doing, because that means you're going to help them produce even better results than what they're doing now. So it's really important that you kind of spend some time and give it some focus. Make sure you connect with them with a copy of your resume. So let them know what you've been doing. And this doesn't only have to include kind of jobs that you've been doing, but think about for your resume, important projects you've worked on in certain classes, Or maybe if you're involved in computer science or data science, you know, is it some kind of personal projects that you've been working on the side, you know, creating your own apps or doing your own programming or things like that. So it doesn't only have to be about, you know, the paid jobs that you're doing. You know, make sure you thank the professor for their time after you meet with them. You know, when you're connecting with them via email, make sure it's professional email. You know, we don't want to use slang terms. We, you know, want to be clear. If you've attended any of the sessions through CSIC in the past, I know there's all, you know, it's all about, you know, practicing your pitch and getting yourself ready. You know, these are the kinds of things that you can also include in an email when you're reaching out for research. And be interested, not interesting. I think that's a really interesting piece of advice, right? It's not about how great you are and how amazing you are. And I'm sure you're all great and amazing, but it really is about, you know, what makes this research opportunity great and amazing. So, you know, what's interesting about, you know, where you're going, not just what you kind of bring, because that's going to show that curiosity, that innovative thinking that those professors are going to be looking for to help them, you know, with forwarding their research opportunities. So yes, it can feel like you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, but I mean, this is about you moving forward in your life, and it's worth it, right? So really kind of, you know, let's not hit panic zone, but we need to move outside of our comfort zone a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Christine. And just really want to encourage folks too that I know it's the worst feeling in the world before you hit send on that email to reach out to someone. But as Christine said, like, academics love to talk about their research. And so if you have a genuine interest, let that shine through. And I would also just add, if you're not quite sure about like, okay, well, where do I even begin? You can just start with already know. So who are some professors that you've already taken classes with that you thought, you know, seemed really personable or really engaging, were doing interesting research on interesting topics? You can start there as a gathering place for some information. Okay, so as we wrap up, oh, sorry, Christine, did you want to jump in?
Nope.
Okay. As we wrap up here, I just wanted to share this, that again, sort of about the value of these positions. I'm sorry, I think somebody might be unmuted. If you could just go ahead and mute yourself again, that would be great. So this is just another example about sort of something that students gain from participating in these programs. So the quote is, I came across the NCIRK USRA, so the long acronym again, but Undergraduate Research Award, after receiving a link from a list of research opportunities on campus through the distillation newsletter in my second year, and took a leap of faith to contact my Biology 200 professor for a position in her lab. And I highlight this quote because I really love that leap of faith comment. Her research encompassed two major topics that I had some exposure to while taking biology courses during the school year: viruses and their nuclear entry into host cells. After several email exchanges and an interview, Dr. Pante and I began navigating the application process together. And I like this because it really highlights that even in putting together an application to get the subsidy to do this research project, there was a collaboration between a student and a professor. And I think that's really the key thing through all of these opportunities, is to sort of mention the fact that these are collaborative endeavors. This is an opportunity to work actually quite closely in a lot of cases with researchers who are not just doing research, but applying the research. We mentioned some of the opportunities around things like getting to actually work on articles or contribute to academia that gets published and goes places and has all kinds of opportunities available to you. But it really starts with that connection to someone and being able to start a conversation about your research interests and where you might want to go with it. Okay, so we of course have lots of time for questions. I'll just remind folks again, rather than get into the nitty-gritty of eligibility for each program, we'll provide the links to those websites, which also has the contacts for the people to reach out to if you have additional questions about that. And I also just want to, oops, sorry, we'll go back to that. Remind you about the closing survey here, the post-event survey. We'd love it if you could take a moment to tell us what you've learned. So you can click on the survey link that's been entered into the chat again for a chance to win that $50 Uber Eats gift card. You will have until 2:30 p.m. today to take the survey, and a lucky winner will be notified by email at 3 p.m. today. So there's a tight turnaround time on this. So if you enter into this, you will find out if you won this afternoon. So we'll let folks do that. And I believe Irene will also be sharing the attendance link so that you can get the recording once again as well. But for now, we'll go back to answering some questions.
So I can go back and ask some of the ones in the chat here, since there's quite a few that have accumulated in the chat box. So maybe we'll go through some of those. Does this webinar cover opportunities available in UBC once you graduate? No.
That's a great question. Yeah, most of these opportunities will be for while you are currently a student. I will say that the Worklearn program allows you to work for 1 term after you graduate. So if you're graduating this May, you could apply for a Worklearn position to work this summer, but you're only able to do that in the term following your graduation. So if you graduate in May, you can't take a Worklearn position that starts in September. You could only do one for the summer. But yes, the vast majority of these programs will be for while you are a current UBC student.
Yeah, so if this is something you're interested in kind of after you graduate, it's really important that you start making connections, and things could be posted, you know, for after on the regular careers online, things like that, that wouldn't be a part of these programs. You know, but the university does often post on Workday and other places for research assistants. So you just have to switch from where the students normally find work sometimes to where, you know, they might be posted in other places for the university. And then
Christine, maybe while you search for another question, I'm going to put some links to the program websites in the chat as well.
Yeah, sure.
Ready at hand.
Yeah, there's one in here. If is NCIRK open to international students as well? NCIRK is a little tricky in that they do want you to be a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen. And so I guess it depends on, you know, because I know the definition of international student can mean, you know, sometimes there are students who are permanent residents of the country, but still identify more as an international student. But if you don't have permanent residency or a Canadian citizen, I believe you do not have access to the NCIRK grants, but other undergraduate research awards for like the IURAs, you definitely would.
Absolutely. I also just wanted to remind folks as well, sorry, WRLA, so the Worklearn International Undergraduate Research Award and the NCIRK are also available for the term after you graduate at the UBC Vancouver campus. So again, a little bit of a buffer between the time that you graduate and whatever you decide to do next. But again, it's the term immediately following graduation.
So if I am an international student, can I do research in fall terms? If it's part of like the Worklearn or work study program, you would be able to do that if those programs run through the fall term, because typically they're more part-time opportunities, which would allow you to also be attentive to your studies because you are here to study as well. And so those kinds of opportunities would still be available in the fall terms.
Absolutely. Yeah, lots of Worklearn positions will be for the academic year, so September through to April. And an important thing to note about it, I didn't get into this in the portion of it just because it's a little bit specific, but in the fall term, Worklearn is 10 hours a week, and in the summer it's 20 hours a week to help account for sort of some of that balance in terms of courses.
Yeah. We'll go more NCIRK stuff, but I think we got that. Course-based international grad students, research awards or opportunities. just trying to think how that might be different than kind of the, you know, if you're reaching out to specific faculties, then that, I mean, I'm not sure there's something based on a specific course. Nick, do you have thoughts?
I think, and unfortunately, the short answer is one of it will sort of depend. So I think the overarching kind of advice that I would give is that if you're interested in doing research in a particular area, is to find somebody at your campus who works in that area and to touch base with them and ask some questions about what might be available. At the course-based level and even between departments, there's so many different variations about funding that's available, who will have time to take on students or research projects. And so I know it's kind of vague general advice, but if you're interested in doing research with someone, you should reach out to them as soon as possible to hear about what might be available. Because of course, you might find a great fit for a program, but that program may not be something that's a great fit for the person you want to do research with. So there's sort of multiple different ways to approach this, of starting with either the program or starting with a faculty member, a professor, or instructor. But if you're interested in a specific area, to reach out to that specific person first. And if you're like, okay, well, I have no idea, again, I would kind of go back to your network and some of the professors you already know and reach out to them, again, to learn a little bit more. Just because you reach out to somebody to ask some questions, they're not going to assume that means that you are locked in forever and you want to do a research project with them. It's absolutely okay to just ask for more information from someone.
Sure. Do you have to be taking summer courses to qualify for Worklearn summer positions? No, for the Okanagan campus, that is no. In fact, it's helpful if you're not, because maybe you have more time to do the work. You do, though, as Nick mentioned before, need to be a continuing student if it's for longer than just the summer term, for example, but you do not need to be taking courses to be employed.
Yeah, you should be okay for that. The Worklearn website will have the full list of eligibility requirements for each different type of student. So you'll see the eligibility requirements on the website are quite long, but it is in the chat there. And so I would have a look at that first. If you're still unsure, you're like, okay, my situation is slightly different, I would really encourage you to reach out to the program coordinator, and the program emails are on those websites as well. Because they'll be able to actually go into the system and just answer that 100% for sure to know whether you're eligible or not for the program. But generally speaking, as long as you're a continuing student, you've paid tuition in the previous term, you should be eligible.
And so we've also got, again, a couple questions just to clarify, I think, around the timing. So we've got some students, we have like a person who's going to be getting a PhD in April, and then they want to know if they can still do a Worklearn position from May to August.
That's testing my in-depth knowledge of the eligibility requirements here. You know what? I know that this is not a great specific answer, but I'd really encourage you to reach out to the Worklearn program, just because, again, every situation can be a little bit different. And I will include that email in the chat as well, so that you can reach out there about the full eligibility requirements.
Perfect. And I think there's also some questions around, can you go back and forth between campuses for these opportunities? And the answer to that is no, they are two different kind of funding opportunities. And so the Okanagan has kind of Worklearn or work study funding for our campus. UBC Vancouver has the Worklearn funding for theirs. There could be some chances if you were doing maybe an undergraduate research award that you had a team that was working across both campuses, but that would be kind of a little bit separate on the Okanagan campus anyway from the work study program. So that's more kind of a specific on-campus program. But if you're doing that undergraduate international research award, you know, and you find a wonderful partner on the Vancouver campus that your instructor or professor would like to work with, I don't think that would be a problem, as long as you're, you know, always kind of grounded within the one campus. And I can't speak for Vancouver, but I know for us, we would be excited if you found a partner somewhere else, but you would have to work with someone on the Okanagan campus as well.
Yeah, yeah. And similarly, a lot of that is to do with making sure you have, in all of these situations, the faculty member or instructor becomes your supervisor. And it's really hard to do that if there's not some ability to connect. I mean, obviously, I know lots of things have been done remotely, but making sure that you have somebody on your campus who knows your campus and is able to support you through that campus resources. But as Christine said, there's going to be opportunities to collaborate within each of these positions. And that extends beyond just our two campuses to, I've talked to plenty of students in all of these programs who get to work on projects with people from you know, institutions all around the world, but their supervisors is still going to be based on the same campus as them. That's a great question. Anything else that we haven't addressed yet? And then I also forgot to include the work study program website.
So anybody else have any other questions that are coming up? These are great opportunities. And I would say if you're, you know, a student still early on in your academic career and you're not sure, I mean, it's absolutely okay, like Nick was saying, to go and ask questions, to talk to professors that you already maybe have a connection with, you already feel like, you know, they what they're doing makes sense to me in a research capacity, and just ask the questions. You know, nobody is gonna, you know, force you to do anything that you're not wanting to do, or work on a project that doesn't suit your style or your values around research. So, you know, just make sure that you get out there and find out more information. There's so many great opportunities, and, you know, maybe you'll learn that you're not really that interested in research, and that's also something really valuable too, you know, when you're trying to plan that career path. And so, but everyone, you know, should consider it and think about it, and ask those questions so you can get more information. Information is never a bad thing when it comes to these kinds of decisions.
Absolutely. I did get a follow-up question just about the graduation piece, which I know is, yeah, again, the eligibility things get a little bit complicated. But for Worklearn, you can work the term after you graduate. And so again, if you graduate in May, you can work the summer term. But if you've graduated 2 terms ago or 5 years ago, no, the Worklearn program is not available to you. I mean, the simplest way I can break it down is if you have paid tuition money to UBC as recently as last term, then the program is likely available to you. But if you are no longer a UBC student and it's been more than a term since you've graduated, the Worklearn program will no longer be available to you. However, if you've graduated already, or it's coming up soon and you're thinking like, okay, maybe for whatever reason, this just doesn't fit in for me this summer, I would still really encourage you to reach out to the people that you're interested in talking to ask your questions to. As part of that networking piece, while you're still a UBC student and as a UBC alum, that's a great way to be able to introduce yourself and have access to UBC's network of people doing research in all these different areas. So I would say while the Worklearn program may not be available to you like 2 years after graduation, if you sent an email to a UBC professor that you'd had 2 years ago to say, you know, I was really interested in the research you were doing, I've since graduated, probably they're still going to give you some time to talk through things and answer your questions. I think there's a culture in academia of, if people are interested in the thing you're interested in, is to try to help them no matter what. Yeah, so I'd just encourage you to do that. If graduation is looming or it doesn't quite work out for you, there's still opportunities to connect with people and get your questions answered and learn more about research. And I also saw a question about the links to all these programs. Yes, so make sure that these are in the follow-up email as well, so that they're all nicely curated in one place for you. Any other questions or anything else that we can help folks with today? I really appreciate all of these questions. They've been great. And maybe just as we'll stick around for a little bit, we're still just shy of time here. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Christine, Irene, the whole CSINC staff team that set all of this up. I want to thank everybody here for attending on a Friday afternoon, listening to us talk about research. You must be interested in research, it shows. And just really best of luck with however you decide to approach research or pursue it or not pursue it. Just know that there's so many opportunities available to you. And often it does start with that curiosity point. Yeah, with that, I guess we'll say formally goodbye to you, but we will stick around on the call if anybody has any other questions that you'd like to chat about today. But thanks so much, everyone.